Well, I woke up this morning and I had segments on my mind. And I thought about one of the last ones I did, and that was with these twisted segments that made a Vortex bowl. Those were cut on a CNC machine. I'm not going to do that today. I want to make something that I think everybody would be able to make if they want to. And I'll be cutting it on my bandsaw. And I'll be making them out of these blocks. It's going to be cherry and walnut, and that's the only wood that I'll use in it. The segment's going to look like that. And my bandsaw is set up with the fixture that I made that will cut this line, and they'll be perfect. And the joints will go together with no sanding. Let's go over to the bandsaw and I'll show you what that fixture is and how I use it. Alright, I'm over at the bandsaw, and this is the cutting fixture that I made. This is just the base that helps locate it on the bandsaw. And I have a board underneath it and it goes through the slot. This is the part that does all the work. It rotates through there like that, and I have a stop to keep from going too far. So I'll load the wood in here and then slowly cut it. This is a 3/16 10-tooth blade on that, and it does a really nice job. Okay, let's go ahead and get a piece loaded in here and I'll show you how it works. Now the first piece, I can't fit it in here because of this radius, and you'll see why in a second. So what I need to do is shim it up with some scraps of the same thickness, and I can put it in here, locate it the same way, and clamp it down. Now it's supported while I cut it. This will be the very first piece in the row of segments that we're going to have. You got to cut really slow. Okay, that's the first one. Now the piece I just cut, that goes against this locator right here. And now we'll take a piece of the walnut, that will go up on top of here, clamp it down. We'll be cutting the outside of this piece, inside of that one at the same time. That is what's going to allow them to fit. If there's any deviation in the cut, it'll be on this piece and that piece, then they will go together. Okay, let's go ahead and cut it. So let's see if I can show you that first cut. Just like it had been sanded in place. It fit really nice. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we take the piece that was on top, put it against this locator, and then I'll wedge it on both ends, like so. Then we'll take this piece, put it on top of here, and we'll cut them both at the same time again. Now, all three of those pieces are fitting really nice. So now I just keep doing the same thing. I'll get this one here, another one on top of it, and I'll cut it. I'm not going to show you any more of that just because it'll look just like I did. So let me get the rest of these cut and we'll put 12 of them together and see how it looks. And I'll use this band clamp. We'll go ahead and test it. Wow, I'd say they all went together just right. And that is straight off the bandsaw. I've done nothing else to it. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, here we go. It's time to glue them together. And I did do the dry fit. They look good. It's a matter of getting glue on them, get them slid into place and clamped all at one time. Thought about gluing them in halves, but they fit so good this way, I don't want to take a chance. If you're wondering, this is Tight Bond Original. Now the true test is that they go back together and they have nice tight joints. I'm going to put that rubber band on there just for a while so I can tap them into place. Then I'll get that band clamp out. So I will let this sit till tomorrow and flatten the board off, and I'll show you how I'm going to cut them into separate rings on the lathe. Well, I went ahead and cleaned the block up. I flattened it, made it parallel. It's temporarily glued to a waste block. Now I need to cut rings out of this blank, and I've made something here that I think is going to work quite well. To start with, I have this piece of wood clamped onto my tool rest. There's a slot right here. Fits this little parting tool. I'll be able to put this in that slot and cut through and cut a ring. And then move it to the next ring. And in order to keep the angle the same, I've clamped a straight edge right here, and I can run the banjo along that, get to the new mark that I'm going to cut, and hopefully they'll fit quite well. Let me move the camera around so you can see how I cut them, and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, here we go. You see the pencil mark there? That's where I want my first one to be. And I'm just going to touch that and verify that it's where it wants to be, and it is. Alright, there's the first one. So the reason that this straight edge is really handy is because I will also need to pull it out of the way. Take this piece out, and get the ring off. Okay, we're all set up to cut the second ring. There we go. Okay, last one. Okay, I've got to remove the glue block and it'll all come apart. Go ahead and get some glue on this. Wipe some of that off of there so I can see my lines. I'm going to put this weight on here. I just happen to have a hole in there where I was making something out of that piece of steel. I'm going to let that sit on there for maybe 5 minutes. Then I'm going to flip it over and look at the inside, make sure it's lined up, and I'll put it under the press here. So now, I'll go ahead and put this weight on here just for a spacer. And I'll put some light pressure on it. It shouldn't move now. And we don't need a lot of pressure. It's a nice flat joint as it is. That's about all I'm going to do. So I'll let that sit for maybe 15 minutes. I'll come back and we'll do this one. Okay, I'm going to let that sit all night and I'll turn it tomorrow. So I did let this sit all night. The glue's plenty dry. I have it mounted up in the chuck right now. That wall is pretty flat because of how I cut the rows. It's about a 1/2 inch thick. I want to see if I can get some sort of a shape on here. Not sure what it's going to end up, but let's just start cutting on it and see what develops. About 900 RPM, and I have a 1/2 inch bull gouge. I think I'll finish that off with the negative rake scraper. Okay, I think this is ready to sand, but I'll turn the outside and then we'll sand everything at the same time. Okay, I'm all set up to cut the outside, and I don't think there'll be a lot to take off. Okay, I think I've got that. I've just got a couple small little ridges here, so I think it's time to use the negative rake scraper on this. Okay, it's time to sand. I'm going to do the outside going in reverse at around 400 RPM. I'll do the inside going forward about 400 RPM. I'll use sheets of paper starting with 80 and I'll work my way up through 400. So I'll show you a little bit of both of that, but not all the sanding. I'm going to go ahead and put the sanding sealer on the inside, and I'm using Minwax water-based sanding sealer. So I put a little in a cup and I'm going to paint the first coat on, it's really important to let it soak in. It might take another coat of this, it might not. I'm going to take a rag. Now I'll just wipe it. I'll probably do the exact same thing one more time, and then it might be ready for the polycrylic. So I just wanted you to see how it went on. I've already applied multiple coats of the polycrylic, but I'll do one more coat so I can show you the process that I do in between coats. This usually only takes around 15 minutes to dry on a day like today, but after it's dry I'll take 400 grit sandpaper and I'll just go over everything, and you can see that that dust comes right up, so it sands really easy. I'll wipe that dust off with a soft paper towel or a rag. Now I'll put one more coat on, and then when I'm through with that, we'll polish it. So the trick here is don't leave any streaks, and I put a really light coat on, and it almost doesn't even need sanding, but I like to do that just to make sure. Alright, I'm going to let that sit a little extra long this time because I'll be polishing it out when we come back. These type of turnings, I like to get a really deep luster on it, and after I have the finish on it, I like to use the Acks abrasive paste. I know a lot of people just put it on the bare wood, but I really like what it does to a finished bowl, and it just brings some extra depth to it. Okay, I'm going to do this in reverse, starting around 400 RPM. I'm going to bump it up to around 600. So I'm going to grab this blue one that doesn't have anything on it. I'll do it going forward now, and maybe you'll be able to see it better. Go ahead and use the polishing restoring paste. So on that, I actually like to use a soft cloth. Okay, I like it. It's nice and smooth. It feels like glass. So it's still attached to the glue block. I'll go ahead and get it off of here. I'll be back and I'll show you what we have. Well, here it is. It's all done. And this did start out as an experiment, but I think it was very successful. I used the bowl on a board method to make this, and I ended up with a 7 3/4 diameter, and because of the bowl on board method, it's 4 1/4 inches tall, but that includes the piece of paduk I used for the base, and the rest of it is Peruvian walnut and cherry. I used Minwax water-based sanding sealer and Minwax Polycrylic, which is also water-based. And then I used Acks abrasive paste and polish to get that beautiful deep shine. Really happy with it. The bowl itself, pretty simple to turn. The shape's already kind of there after cutting the segments. What I really enjoyed was designing this shape and making a fixture that would allow me to cut them and not sand the joints. And it worked perfect. That's the little fixture I made. There's only 2 dimensions. Those 2 radiuses right there. Once you have that and position this fixture in the right place, it makes perfect segments. If you're not interested in this, but you know someone that is, please share this video around. I love to see people make something that they think is really hard, but not all that hard. I know I say that a lot, and it's not all that hard, and it isn't. If you'd like more information on how I made this fixture, let me know and I could make a video showing that. But I do think the bowl turned out really nice, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Well, if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. And hopefully it means that you liked it. If you did like it, click that like button, give it a thumbs up. Also, leave a comment as well. I read them all, and I'll do my best to answer any questions. As always, many thanks to all my subscribers. And if you're not, and you like what you saw, consider doing so. Thanks again, and until the next time, see you later.